Hey everyone, welcome into Bleacher Talk. Another exciting week of high school football is underway after a really exciting week of high school football, which led to some pretty interesting standings. Later on in the show, we're going to head to ALA Queen Creek, so we'll have more out there, and then our social spotlight, of course. But right now, we're going to bring in Bruce Cooper to talk about quick picks, because last week is probably the most interesting week of quick picks that we've had. Spurge and I were both 0-3, didn't choose a single game correct. Bruce, you were the only one to get one game correct. I do want to say, though, and we'll dive a little deeper into last week's games just for fun. My gut was telling me to pick Basha over Chandler, and I think it was like a game time decision. I don't know what happened, but I wish I would have gone with my gut because I'm still at the bottom, 14-13. Spurge is in second place at 17-10, and Coop, you have stolen back the lead at 18-9. But Spurge, you want to dive a little deeper into last week's standings?
Last week was tough, and the one game that went Coop's way, that was one that I didn't write down and was very back and forth. But I was so confident in Red Mountain, and I was so confident in Chandler. And shout out to Basha for being on the opposite side of this. I feel like a lot of times when people start picking against Basha, or maybe when they become heavy favorites, things change. But this time, everyone picked against them, and probably all across the valley for the most part, and they pulled off the upset. And then Red Mountain over Williamsfield. Williamsfield kind of fighting, kicking around. Steve Campbell, I'm sure, get a hold of that one. I know, Coop, that's personal with you a little bit sometimes. But very interesting games. And ALA Queen Creek, we're going to go out to later. Claudia, it's funny, you and I are going there, and we both picked against them last week, and now they're right there.
They don't need to know. They don't need to know. Bruce,
But
how do you feel after getting the only dub of last week?
Well, let me tell you, just to piggyback off of Jordan, yeah, it seems like anytime I pick against Williamsfield, it comes back to bite me in behind. I mean, look, Steve Campbell needles me. He gets on me all the time about picking against their team to win the state championship against Centennial. Of course, they did just that. And here it is again. I went against Williamsfield, and yeah, what happens? They come up and they bite me in the behind again. So yeah, I may be close to issuing this edict. Never bet against a Steve Campbell coach team, at least from my perspective. I don't know. It's getting to that point. I can't win for losing there.
or for Steve Campbell, he might tell you to keep picking against.
Oh,
Yeah, that's true.
Colin Thomas of Liberty had that last year when we all picked
Good
Basher to
point.
beat them. And then the next day he goes, you guys should all pick against us again. I think I ended up picking them, and then they lost. So I think next time I see him, be like, hey, let's pick against them.
So actually, you're welcome, is what we're saying.
Exactly.
Hey, well, I say let's dive into this week's games. The first one is Trevor G. Brown at Mesa. Spurge, I'll let you choose first.
Yeah, two teams that are really on the up and up. Trevor G. Brown got off to an awesome start. They dropped a couple games lately just because of their strength of schedule. It seems like the computer's a little bit down on them in the 6A playoffs, but if they won both games, maybe they'd slide in the picture. And Mesa, they're right now in position to make the 6A playoffs, and I think a win here solidifies that for them. I really like their offense. Trey Brown is one of the top receivers in the state. I think he's top 5 or top 6 in receiving yards in 6A at this point. So give me Mesa over Trevor G. Brown in this one. I'm going to say it's going to be a lot of points for them. I'm going to say 28-17.
Okay. I'm choosing opposite of you this week because I'm going to go with my gut a little bit on this one because I wasn't sure, but I think I have to actually follow it this time. We went out to Trevor G. Brown a few weeks ago and featured them on Bleacher Talk. And I think we got to learn a lot about like the coaching style, the attitude. We were seeing them on a walkthrough day, so we didn't get to see a true practice, but like the bond of that team is really awesome. I think it was kind of a unique perspective, not going to a true practice and getting to see the team in a pregame mindset versus, a Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday, something like that. We saw them actually, I think we saw them on a Wednesday ahead of a Thursday game, now that I think about it. Overall, really like their coaching style, players that we talked to. They're really playing for something special this year. This is one of the best seasons that they've had in truly decades. And I think with that, they've just got a bit more of a chip on their shoulder. Clearly, I'm going with gut and not stats here, but I have to agree. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I'm going to go Trevor G. Brown 25-18. Bruce.
Well, let me say props to head coach Francisco Rangel. He got the Bruins off to a really fast start. They won their first 5 games, but Trevor Brown has dropped their last 3. I mean, and then you flip the coin and look at what Chad DeGrenier is doing over at Mesa. They've won 4 straight. And I know this doesn't mean anything, but I'm going to take a common opponent out of there, for each team. And it just so happens to be my alma mater, the Westwood Warriors. Westwood beat Trevor Brown, whereas Mesa, the Jackrabbits, killed my Warriors. So I just like the way the Jackrabbits are trending right now. So I'm going to agree with Spurs. I like Mason. I don't think it's going to be necessarily close. I like Mesa 35, Trevor Brown 13.
I don't know if I love this or hate this because it could give me the advantage or it could just sink me further down.
You got some ladders to climb, buddy. You got to.
I do. I'm gonna roll with it. I saw this matchup and I was like, ooh, something about it. The next one is Brophy at Chaparral. I might see us all agreeing on this, but Bruce, I'll let you start on this one.
Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you this. Chaparral has the more explosive offense. Let's put it to you like that. But I like the way Jason Jewell has his Broncos playing right now. They had a really, really tough loss a couple of weeks ago against Pinnacle, 18-14. And of course, they were impressive in their win last week over DV. But they've had a lot of games this year, well, a number of games this year, in which they have not been able to protect a first half lead. And I just think that they are actually starting to come together a little bit more in that regard. And I look at Chaparral, absolutely destroyed last week in their rivalry game with Saguaro, 59-17. I don't think that's so easy to overcome a week later. So give me the Brophy Broncos 20, Chaparral 14.
All right, Spurs, you agree or disagree with Bruce?
I like a lot of what you were saying, Bruce. I was actually at the Saguaro Chaparral game, calling the game for AZ Preps 365. And my takeaways at the end of the game were actually not bad against Chaparral. I remember talking to Brett Barnes before the game, and he said, listen, we know we're going to get bullied inside against Saguaro right now. Their offensive line is clicking this season. Towards the end of the year, as they've gotten stronger, ours is our weak point. And he was very, very upfront about that. But I really like their quarterback play. I love the explosiveness on offense. They showed a lot of flashes of that. I know only 17 points against Saguaro is not a lot, but also Saguaro is a top 3 or 4 defense in the state. They, even in games where they've lost, they've played great defenses against some of the best opponents, not only in the state, but in the country with the 5th strongest schedule. And I think Shap is in more of a playoff position right now than Brophy is, where Shap's a team, even if they sneak in that 14, 16 seed range, I wouldn't want to play them as a 1, 2, or 3 seed in 6A. I think Brent Barnes, knows what he's doing. Back-to-back championship game appearances, winning in 2020, losing last year in both games against Highland, and they could potentially get a rematch against Highland in the playoffs. And I think they match up well against them. So I'm actually going to take Shap here over Brophy. Give me Shap 28, Brophy 20.
I'm feeling a little less decided than I did at the beginning of this one. Overall, I think Brophy on paper appears like the better team. Tons of prospects, tons of recruits. We know Jason Jewell pretty well over at Sports 360 AZ. He used to have my role as the recruiting roundup host. And he sure knows what he's doing on the recruiting end of things. Love his coaching style. I think there's a lot of talent on Brophy. I just don't think that they've quite put the pieces together yet. And I think it's late in the season to still be struggling with that. And even though they had a tough start to their season and they're starting to put the pieces together, I hate to say that it's too late, but it does feel a little late for me in the season for this to still be an issue, if we're going to call it that. Chaparral, on the other hand, I think that they just jive a little bit better. I had gotten feedback from actually students of mine that were at the Chaparral Saguaro game and kind of had similar remarks that Chaparral actually looked really good. I think I have to go Chaparral just because of where we're at in the season. I have a little bit more confidence in them going the extra mile. So I'm going to go Chaparral 21-10. The last matchup, big rivalry matchup, Centennial at Liberty. I'm going to start by saying we've got a resident West Side expert at Sports 360 AZ in Devin Henry. So I did reach out to him for a little bit of insight and just some interesting tidbits on the game. So Centennial beat Sandra Day O'Connor 20-15, whereas Liberty led Sandra Day O'Connor 50-0 at half. And that number 50 is actually really important in this game. Liberty's honoring Zaf Hunzinger, who passed away after multiple battles with cancer. Their goal for this upcoming game is to put up 50 points. So they're not just doing that for the game, they're doing it to honor a former player. And I think just that extra motivation, playing for something beyond the game. I love that storyline. I think it's really important. I do think it really lights a fire under these players. That also is a plug to Devin Henry. You definitely want to check out his work, The Best in the West, and all of the work and that he puts in to kind of show the West Side some love. He lives out there. It's nice for him to get out there. Liberty is the team to beat this season. I think that is across the board. We probably will all agree. They're in their position for a reason. And I don't think Centennial will have that edge in this game. I think Liberty is an open division team, hands down. I would love to see them in the open division championship. I think it'd be an interesting matchup. I think Liberty will win this one 30-25. High scoring. I guess we're going with it. Spurge, you seem surprised by that.
I just figured you were going to go.
Oh, 50.
With Liberty.
50.
I thought you'd go there. I mean,
yes. Let's do 50-35. I take that back. 50-35.
They've reached 50 and eclipsed it multiple times this season. They're all in. After seeing what happened last week with Chandler and Basha, I think at this point, obviously the playoffs still have to happen. It's a foregone conclusion based on all of our thoughts and experiences that they are the best team in Arizona at this point in the season right now. Liberty is firing on all cylinders. Colin Thomas has them running like a well-oiled machine. I want to give props to Centennial. The defense is back carrying this team. Offensively, they got a really great running game. I know they're in contention to potentially be in the open, and I don't know how much this game with a loss would affect that based on strength of schedule. It seems like head-to-head isn't changing things much in those rankings because Chandler's still ranked ahead of Basha, even after Basha just beat Chandler. But Centennial's a team that could go on a deep 6A run, I believe, if they fell down in there. So a loss here might not absolutely be the worst thing for them. But yeah, give me Liberty. They're riding high. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say 50-20. I don't think it's going to be super close by the end of the game.
Well, I'm going to say this. I'm going to give Richard Taylor and his Centennial Coyotes a lot more credit than you guys are in terms of that 50 spot being placed upon them. This is a rivalry game. And look, we know that Centennial lost its first game of the year to Hamilton, and since then they've ripped off 7 straight wins. And you talked about the defense really now coming back into more of a form of what we're used to seeing from a Richard Taylor coach team. Look, we have to give Liberty its props. I mean, what are they now? A top 20 national team. They have just 2 defensive studs in Mikael Gardner and Anthony Ruiz. So look, there's no question this team is loaded. All 3 phases of the game, they play extremely well. They're very well coached, as you talked about, by Colin Thomas. But I'm going to give Richard Taylor and his guys a lot more respect than that 50 burger. But I will say this. I do, at the end of the day, think Liberty will win. And I think that's going to be the only thing that's going to be important when the gun sounds to Liberty is that they won. And I like Liberty 28, Centennial 14.
Another awesome week of quick picks. I'm really excited to see how this all plays out. Could work in my favor, could continue to work in Bruce's favor. Spurge, I know you want to come out of the middle of the pack. I feel like you're pretty secure there for the time being. But stick with us when we come back. We'll be at ALA Queen Creek.
Welcome back to Bleacher Talk. I'm Jordan Spurgeon alongside Claudia Collins. We made it out. We made the trek to ALA Queen Creek. You guys are having an awesome season. We've got Matt and Mitch with us and the team back there getting ready for practice today.
causing a ruckus too. It seems like you guys are a pretty close group, huh?
Yeah, I've known most of these guys since 4th grade. I remember out on that field right there, playing flag football and looking over here and thinking we're going to be a great team. We're going to be a close group.
Do you have the same long history with the team and these guys?
So I don't. I came here my freshman year because my older brother transferred here. It wasn't hard to get close to them. We got close pretty fast, and we're all pretty great friends. So it's a solid group of guys.
We don't usually go straight into the fun questions, but because we had a loud background to lead us off there, who's the loudest on the team?
Loudest on the team. Ooh, that's a good question. I think I got to think. Hold on.
I'm ready.
Okay. You looked ready.
I got
you go.
Gage Rogers.
Oh, for sure, Gage.
He is at school. He can be a ruckus, but he's a great kid. But at practice, it's just yelling, doing all this,
and
having a good time.
When he's with his solely combined partner Riker, it's something.
That's a duo you got to watch out for.
Something to see.
There are DNs. I think they lead 5A in sacks. So
on the field getting it done, but also just causing a ruckus everywhere.
For sure.
Everywhere they go.
All right, Coach. Well, you're 7-1 this season. We're just talking to the guys about what that means and what the motto has been for your team this season. What is the motto, and how did you come up with it?
Well, it's the future is now. I think 4 years ago we were 3A, and everybody kind of was like, I wish we'd play a little tougher competition, a little higher caliber competition, and then we went to 4A for a couple years, and now we're 5A, kind of probably, a good sweet spot for us, and kind of the place where the former players kind of pointed to and then wanted to be. And so that's kind of the reason we came up with it, is like, hey, we're here. We've got to produce now. We've got to prove we belong, and I feel like with this team we have 26, 27 seniors, and they've been ready for it, and they've attacked it and ready for the challenge. Obviously, we've got to finish it off and keep going, but they've really done a great job attacking 5A this year and trying to prove that we belong.
Yeah, I would say you've proved you belong in 5A with that record. Now I'm curious, we hear a lot of talk on the Open and whether 4A, 5A teams want to be in the discussion for the Open. Where do you kind of stand on that?
I think this year it's kind of playing out like it probably should. The 6A schedule a lot of these teams have, they're coming down to the wire, beating up on each other in some really good football games. And so, the Open, to me, if all 6A teams are going to be in it after this year, with the season that Desert Mountains had and Notre Dame Prep and us and Horizon and Higley, I think it's probably going to be a 6A state championship. And so probably no need for the Open going forward, but it's also nice to, for the other schools to kind of know, hey, we're playing for 5A state championship. So, we did the Open last year as a 4A team, and we kind of hung in there for a half with Hamilton, but, the numbers and the size kind of caught up with us the second half. So we're in a good place right now and feel good about, the 5A playoffs and having a shot there.
Last year you guys got a taste in the Open division, and this year right now kind of on the cusp. Do you guys pay attention to the law? Do you care whether you end up in 5A or the Open come playoff time? Like, is that something you guys talk about in the locker room or anything?
There's certainly talk about it, but we're welcome to any competition no matter what we can get. When we got pulled up to 4A, everyone said, oh, they're just a 3A team. Then we get pulled up to 5A, and we're here 7-1. So we've proved we can hang with some of the top schools. So it doesn't matter if we go Open or 5A playoff. We're here to play.
7-1. What do you think makes you guys the team to beat this season?
I think our culture and our coaches are a big part of our success and why we're doing so good this year, and why we've done so well in past years. But also, just having that solid group of guys that are close and we can count on each other. We know we're going to go out, we're going to do our job, we're going to get things done. And I think that's a really big part of our success this year.
You talked about 26, 27 seniors, and I'm sure that plays a big role. But what is it about this year's team that's different than last year's team? I know that must have been a growing period making the Open last year, and now this team just seems like they've really come together.
Yeah, I think last year's team gave us a lot of confidence, playing Saguaro to a 6-point game, and then, like I said, hanging in there with Hamilton for a half. I think gave our boys some confidence coming into this season, knowing that we had a lot of returning starters. They've really gelled and stepped up as leaders. And, in high school football, having some 18-year-olds, helps with the maturity level and then the experience they've had over the last couple of years of playing varsity football. So they've really done a great job of coming together and building that team chemistry and having that many of them this year. It's been fun for us as coaches because we know they know what they're doing a little bit this year.
Yeah. What's your relationship like with Coach Detmer?
Coach Detmer, I was really close with Coach Edwards, our previous head coach. And when I found out he was leaving, it was, a bit of a bummer. But when I found out it was Coach Detmer, I was like, oh, sweet, another NFL football player. But, I embraced it. I was like, okay, he's a great coach. He helped me a lot with, recruiting, knowing, what to look out for and what to do. So he's been a big help for me.
Coach Detmer, it's like having a buddy. He's a really good friend of mine, but also head coach. I actually have a little brother named after him, so he was always growing up he was someone I was like, oh, big time, but now he's sending me selfies, so it's hard to believe, because we're just good friends, but also he's my coach, so it's pretty unbelievable.
What's his go-to pose? Selfies he says.
It's the classic Yeah.
Okay, wait, a brother named after him. Mm-hmm. So finding out that you'd get to play for him, I know you kind of just got into it, but what was that like in your household getting that?
Yeah, my parents were pretty excited because my dad's he really likes BYU. So finding out he was our coach, it was kind of crazy because first we have Coach Hall, and then all of a sudden Coach Detmer's thrown in the mix, and both of those guys my dad looked up to when he was growing up. So Coach Hall is younger than my dad, but
okay, you can look up to people younger than you.
He liked them both pretty. A lot. So it was pretty crazy. This is how I met Coach Detmer. Okay, so I was a freshman, and Coach Detmer's nephew was one of my best friends. He invited me to go to the Salt River with him and his family, and I thought it was just the close family that lives in the house next to me, but it was the whole extended family, including Coach Detmer. So I wore this tiny pink swimsuit that it was pretty tiny. Anyways, so that whole side of the family calls me, pink shorts, all these other names. So this past Father's Day, I got Coach Detmer a pair of pink shorts, and he looks pretty snazzy in them.
He'll have to wear them if you guys get to a championship game, right?
Sure.
Underneath.
But you guys, if you win the title, they
yeah.
got to be on underneath.
Right.
Pants are off, shorts
And
are on.
once we win, dump the Gatorade on. I will tell him.
Yeah.
Just the pink.
He'll be ready.
What's your relationship like with some of the guys? They were mentioning, sometimes selfies come out and pink shorts have been given and an inside joke as well. So, how is it that you just kind of go about it with your guys and just being, a coach, but maybe
also
a
a
little
friend?
bit of a friend?
Yeah, it's a fine line, right? There's still that respect factor they got to have, and I feel like our guys do a great job of that. If you're not having a good time, it's going to be miserable. Football's a tough, hard sport, and so you got to have fun doing it, but at the same time, get the work in, get coached up, understand that we're there for you on and off the field, and know that we can have a good time, but there is still that line there, and so that's kind of my personality. I'm not the drill sergeant out here and cracking them down and those kind of things. So these guys are a lot of fun, and sometimes you meet them as 14-year-old knuckleheads and they turn into good young men, and that's the goal as coaches is we want to see that maturity rise and them become great young men.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Bleacher Talk. I'm Jordan Spurgeon alongside Claudia Collins. No Eliav goodbye this week. He's grinding away on a really awesome story, by the way, people. You're going to want to check it out on our site when it drops this week. Super powerful stuff, family connections, and all kinds of things going on. So Eliav is deep in work on that, and so we're making sure he has the time to get that done. So I think, Claudia, I think we kind of got this under control.
Yeah, we've done this before.
Maybe less energy than Eliov, but we got our energy to it.
Yeah.
We'll bring it in. But what do you got for us first?
Well, I'm a big Halloween gal. I love dressing up. So I've got to say I was on the prowl for anything Halloween related because we did have, Friday night football right ahead of Halloween. Definitely saw a lot of costumes out at the Basha Chandler game. So I figured there had to be something on Twitter. And there most definitely was. Over at Paradise Honors, the recruiting coordinator had a really, really unique and potentially viral way to kind of shed some light on his players. So if you had been on social media over the last couple of days, you were probably seeing this, do we call it a meme? I don't even know, but where you have a costume and then the description of the costume. So if it was like sports reporter costume. Okay, what do you need? A microphone, a camera, sweat from head to toe, something like that. Well, he went the extra mile and called it the Stat Monster costume and had all of his best players on the cover of it and their stats. And I just thought this was a really, really unique way that was also very on trend. So big props there. I feel like this should happen every Halloween.
Yeah, trending in recruiting, that goes hand in hand. That is awesome. I love to see that.
Yes, 100%. And then the other one that I want to point out, okay, Spurge, what do you know about me if we're talking Netflix television shows?
Stranger Things. That's Claudia's deal.
Yes, I am a big Stranger Things fan. So when Brandon Phelps posted a graphic that was made by the U of A that mimics all things Stranger Things, bear down with the upside down lightning and the red. I just absolutely love it. I think, kind of sets the bar high between these two Halloween tweets. I think we could do better. I think that we could see more of this next year. I was a little slightly disappointed because what a great opportunity, right?
I think so. And Claudia, I think you might have a few years of eligibility left. So if a school wants to recruit you to play, I think they know the way to get you. It's a Stranger Things graphic. I think you'll commit on the spot.
Yes, that's fair. That's probably the only way. All right, Spurge, you've got one last spotlight for us. What is it?
Yeah, speaking of that, recruiting maestro himself, Sean Aguano. They were out in Colorado this week. Big win with Trenton Bourget coming in at quarterback, a Marana High School alum. So all the Arizona High School connections. At ASU as well. I know we've been hammering it down week after week after week, but this week, bring back an ASU legend, Jake Plummer, who obviously lives in Colorado, came and spoke to the team at breakfast. Jordan Ham actually caught up with him as well. An awesome interview on our website to talk about a lot of things. I know Jake Plummer is one of the more interesting dudes out there. Long time, ASU legend, NFL for a few years, and now doing his own thing with different farms and all kinds of fun stuff in Colorado. So he got to speak to the team, and whatever he said, it must have helped a little bit because they came out, lit the world on fire. I know Colorado might be having a really bad season, but ASU needed that win, and they got it. And Trenton Bourget had like 400 passing yards. Little Jake Plummer-esque, Jalen Conyers down to the tight end. The tight end's getting used now. So I think, might want to make Jake Plummer come back for the Territorial Cup if he wants to make a little drive down to Tucson from Colorado.
That would be smart. That would be smart. And just another, I'm saying it again, shameless plug to check out Jordan Ham's story because it is really good and really interesting. I showed it to my husband and he was like, farm? He's a farmer? What? So just kind of an interesting, where is Jake Plummer now and what is he doing? So you'll definitely want to check that out. But, just another showing of Sean Aguano just doing his thing. And I know we keep talking about it and we might sound biased. We're not. It's just, this is the most effort that we've seen in recruitment, especially in Arizona, in a long time. We have so much to talk about, and that a lot of that is coming from Sean Aguano. So I promise you that we're not just Sean Aguano stands. We are just really happy to see this recruitment take place.
And on the other side, we saw the U of A graphic. Jed Fish and his crew have been hammering Arizona too the last 2 years. Yep. So both big Power 5 schools in the state are showing love to high school kids. And you can talk about the directions of both programs right now. I think ASU still has to figure out some things. U of A seems to be trending upwards, but in the recruiting season in Arizona, it's better than it's been in a long time. So enjoy it all. If you're, a parent of some of these kids getting offers from both schools, enjoy potential rivalry. I know there's some where one sibling might end up at U of A, one at ASU, and
I'm all here for it. I love it. I absolutely.
That'll wrap it up this week, Claudia. Fun show as always. Quick picks gonna be super interesting. We got to bounce back after being 0-3 last week together.
Yeah, for real.
1-2. So we'll see how that goes. ALA Queen Creek, a lot of fun as well, and of course the social spotlight. So thank you all for tuning into Bleacher Talk. We will see you next week.
See ya.